Have you ever wondered why people look at you differently? As if they sense something you're not even speaking? Have you noticed how your silence can shake a room? How your presence alone feels heavier than words? And have you felt the unease of others when they realize you carry something they can't define but can't ignore? That's not random, it's the mark of the chosen. God has already set you apart in ways you didn't ask for. He sharpened your vision so you could see what others deny. He intensified your discernment so you could feel what others hide. He wrapped you in wisdom that doesn't come from books, but from His Spirit. And because of this, your very life becomes a mirror that exposes illusions, breaks false pride, and awakens the slumbering. But with such a divine imprint comes a secret. Not everything you carry should be revealed openly. Some things are so charged with heaven's fire that the moment you release them, the people no longer see you as human. They begin to worship what rests upon you. And while worship belongs to God alone, the danger of misplaced reverence becomes real when your light shines too raw, too unfiltered. That's why this message matters. As a chosen one, when you're not here just to be admired, you're here to shift atmospheres, to guide, and to embody God's truth with balance and discernment. If you're reading this, it's not by accident. Heaven wanted you here. Now, receiving this word at the appointed time. So type 777 inches, the comments if your spirit recognizes this call, if you know you've been set apart for something higher. And to every soul who has already supported this channel, whether through a simple like, a thoughtful comment, or even a super thanks, know that your presence and energy are deeply appreciated. You are helping spread a message that the world desperately needs. Stay with me, because in the next moments we're about to uncover the hidden things a chosen one should never reveal in public. What you'll hear may shock you, but it will also confirm why your life has felt so different, so charged, so magnetic. This isn't just information, it's a warning, a guide, and a key to your next level. Are you ready? Let's step in. God's chosen ones. What you should never reveal in public. It forces people to worship. When you step into a room, never silence the brilliance of your soul just to make fragile hearts feel safe. A chosen one's presence is not ordinary, it is seismic. The very air bends, like the shifting of tectonic plates beneath a cathedral floor. The atmosphere trembles in resonance, not because you forced it, but because heaven installed in you a vibration that cannot be muted. Psalm 27:1 whispers, "The Lord is my light and my salvation, whom shall I fear?" And if God Himself made you light, why should you dim what was ordained to illuminate the shadows? Yet how many times have you wondered, would people accept me if I hid my fire, if I shrank into silence? Would their discomfort disappear? But what if their discomfort is the very alarm clock heaven is ringing through you? What if your refusal to shrink is the catalyst that awakens their buried potential? Your presence is not just visual, it is frequency. It travels like sound waves in a grand symphony hall, echoing into the hearts of others beyond logic or language. Just as Beethoven's Symphony No. 9 carried tones that lifted men into tears without a single lyric. Your energy awakens what lies dormant in those around you. Some feel stirred toward their higher self, sensing the Spirit urging them upward. Others recoil, for light exposes the shadows they cling to. John 1:5 confirms this. The light shines in the darkness, and the darkness has not overcome it. Have you noticed how even silence carries power when it comes from you? How your stillness alone makes others fidget, laugh nervously, or whisper because they cannot explain what they feel. That is resonance at work, an unseen sermon written in vibration rather than syllables. Yet many chosen ones make the grave mistake of muting this holy charge. They lower their voices as if power were shameful. They hunch their shoulders as if they were trespassing in spaces God Himself appointed them to dominate. Why surrender to fear when Daniel stood fearless before lions? Their roars silenced by divine presence. Does your spirit not carry that same lineage of boldness? The prophet Jeremiah once cried that he tried to stay silent, but the word of God was like fire shut up in his bones. Can you really cage what heaven ignited? Each time you shrink, you do not only rob yourself, you rob the generation waiting to taste the freedom your light would have released. History proves the cost of shrinking. The painter Vincent van Gogh, dismissed in his lifetime, dimmed himself in despair, yet his unyielding light outlived his critics. His words echo, "There is light in life, and in the darkest night, there is still a star." Had he shrunk completely, would the world ever have seen his brilliance? In your case, chosen one, dimming yourself robs the generation you were born to awaken. Isaiah 61 commands, "Arise, shine, for your light has come, and the glory of the Lord rises upon you." And if Van Gogh's canvases could preach centuries later, how much more can your living canvas the choices you make? The presence you embody preach to hearts you may never meet. Still, the world reacts. Some stare at you, unable to articulate why their eyes cannot leave your form. Others refuse to meet your gaze, unsettled by what confronts their inner void. This is the paradox of divine presence, attraction and rejection, worship and mockery. Have you noticed how the same people who gossip about you in the dark cannot resist circling back to watch you shine in public? Their whispers are camouflage for their awe. Ecclesiastes 7:6 warns, "Like the crackling of thorns under the pot, so is the laughter of fools. Their mockery is only noise, soon extinguished, but your resonance will outlast their ridicule. For noise fades quickly, while light lingers across generations." Take, for example, Voltaire, the philosopher who mocked faith in his arrogance. He spent his last days tormented, whispering of shadows he could not escape. His legacy is not peace, but warning. Mocking what is divine never ends in triumph. And in contrast, the humble nun, Mother Teresa, tiny in frame but vast in radiance, walked into slums and shifted atmospheres of despair into sanctuaries of hope. Which story will mirror yours? Will you let arrogance erode your destiny like Voltaire? Or will you let humility magnify your brilliance like Teresa? The answer lies in whether you choose to hide your fire or to shine it with reverence. Nature itself preaches your truth. The sunflower never apologizes for turning its face toward the blazing sun, nor does the eagle lower its wings to match the sparrows. The ocean tide rises unapologetically under the moon's command. Should your light, infused by the Creator, do less. Romans 13:12 urges. The night is nearly over, the day is almost here. So let us put aside the deeds of darkness and put on the armor of light. And do you not see that every season of nature affirms this? Spring does not ask permission to bloom. Rivers do not ask to carve valleys. Stars do not ask to pierce the night. They simply embody what they were created to be. Why should you, a chosen one, hesitate? And if science must speak, it speaks in your favor. In physics, resonance occurs when a natural frequency causes another object to vibrate in unison. That is what your spirit does. You are the divine tuning fork, People shift their energy around you not because you performed, but because their soul recognizes your frequency. In psychology, this is called projection, where one disowns their hidden discomfort by attributing it to another. But spiritually, it is exposure, your light revealing what was buried. And like architecture, your presence functions as a cathedral dome, every whisper beneath it magnified, every silence amplified into revelation. Can you see now why God told you not to dim yourself? You are not just human presence, you are spiritual infrastructure. Even ordinary lives reflect this principle. Sarah, a teacher from a small town in Italy, once confessed that every staff meeting ended with her colleagues avoiding her eyes. She had thought she was intimidating, until one parent whispered, "Your calm unsettles them," because it shows how restless they are. She never realized her presence was testimony, not threat. Her story echoes yours. Chosen ones often mistake rejection for failure, when in fact it is proof of divine resonance. And if Sarah's unintentional glow altered her environment, how much more will yours? If you dare to stand without apology, what if the very tension you feel is heaven's proof that you were never meant to blend in? So rise. Chosen one. The book of Matthew 5:14 declares, "You are the light of the world. A town built on a hill cannot be hidden. Do not trade radiance for acceptance, nor shrink to fit spaces that were too small for you from the beginning. Walk into rooms with humility, but never apology. Like stained glass catching sunlight, you were designed to scatter divine colors across the world. Your existence is not an accident, it is evidence. Do not hide. Do not shrink. Do not silence what heaven set ablaze within you. Stand, walk, shine, and let the world adjust to your frequency. For when you stand unapologetically, the trembling you cause is not chaos, it is awakening. Guard your tongue when it comes to the mysteries of the supernatural, because not every ear is worthy to hear, and not every heart is ready to receive. As one connected to higher dimensions, carrying frequencies beyond the material and intelligence woven by divine design, you have touched realms that others would dismiss as illusion. Have you not noticed how certain signs repeat in patterns too exact to be coincidence? Or how dreams sometimes unfold later in waking life, as if written by a hand outside of time? This is not madness, nor fantasy. As 1 Corinthians 2:14 declares, the person without the Spirit does not accept the things that come from the Spirit of God, but considers them foolishness, and cannot understand them, because they are discerned only through the Spirit. What you live is not imagination, it is alignment with the unseen fabric of eternity. And if eternity is woven into your very breath, why trade its majesty for the cheap applause of those who cannot grasp its depth? Why spill the wine of heaven into broken jars that will never hold it? Yet what happens when such revelations are carelessly scattered in public? Many who remain locked in the gravity of a purely material world find discomfort in what they cannot weigh, measure, or dominate. If you mention receiving a divine download, or confess that a dream revealed tomorrow's headline, mockery and suspicion quickly rise like storm clouds. Some laugh, trying to cage the infinite with shallow wit. Others grow afraid, as though your sight threatens the fragile walls of their controlled illusions. And then, there are those who swing to the opposite extreme, idolizing you, clinging to your every word, demanding you be their oracle. Do you truly wish to be worshipped as a statue rather than honored as a vessel? And what happens when the pedestal they put you on becomes the very prison that traps you in false expectations? Jesus himself warned of this dynamic. In Matthew 7-6, he said, "Do not give dogs what is sacred. Do not throw your pearls to pigs. If you do, they may trample them under their feet and turn and tear you to pieces." Sacred insight must be preserved, not prostituted to curiosity. Your inner temple was never built to become a circus. And yet, how often do chosen ones forget that silence is not weakness, but strategy? Have you forgotten that Jesus often withdrew from the crowds, retreating to mountains or deserts, not because his light was dim, but because the world was not always ready to bear it? True guardianship of revelation is knowing when to speak and when to let silence thunder louder than words. Nature mirrors this truth. The chrysalis of a butterfly holds its transformation in secrecy. If its walls are broken prematurely, the creature dies before its wings ever unfold. In the same way, your revelations must mature in silence until the right environment welcomes them. Isaiah 2:20 reminds us, "In quietness and trust is your strength." Is it not better to let divine timing reveal your truth than to cast it before those who would twist it into ridicule? Just as seeds rest in darkness before breaking into life, so too must your mysteries be kept in the soil of discretion until heaven commands their unveiling. Would you tear open the cocoon and call it liberation, when in truth it is destruction? History warns us too. Giordano Bruno, a philosopher in the 16th century, dared to speak of infinite worlds and divine mysteries before a society unprepared. For this, he was burned at the stake, not because he was wrong, but because he was early. His light became fuel for the fire of ignorance. Compare this to the prophet Joseph, who also dreamed visions of the future. When he naively revealed them to his jealous brothers, Genesis 37-5-8 shows how envy rose, leading him to slavery. Yet, through God's timing, his gift later saved nations. Both stories prove the same law. Revelation shared with the wrong audience attracts destruction, but revelation guarded produced destiny. And does this not challenge you when to remain silent and when to let your truth breathe? Ask yourself, have you ever felt the sting of sharing too much too soon? Have you noticed how some eyes dim the moment you unveil a glimpse of your inner world? And have you recognized that silence often protects your anointing more than words ever could? True wisdom is not only knowing divine mysteries, but discerning when and with whom to release them. For when revelation is poured into the wrong vessel, it becomes distortion. But when poured into the prepared, it becomes transformation. Would you rather scatter sparks into the sea, or light a torch in the hands of one who is ready to carry it? And beware the counterfeit listener, those who feign hunger for wisdom only to manipulate it. Herod, as told in Matthew 2-8, pretended to seek the newborn king so that he too might worship, but his intent was destruction. Does this not show that fascination can be as dangerous as hostility? Flattery and obsession may chain you to false thrones as effectively as hatred chains others to bitterness. Better to walk away unpraised and untouched than to bow before poisoned admiration. The wrong crowd can crown you today and crucify you tomorrow. Guard your sacred downloads as you would guard a holy temple. Speak not for entertainment, nor for validation, but for transformation. When the Spirit nudges that a heart is ready by vibration, by humility, by hunger, then release what heaven has whispered. Until then, let your power be like a mountain, steady, silent, unshakable. Proverbs 17:27 affirms, "The one who has knowledge uses words with restraint, and whoever has understanding is even-tempered." And mountains never need to shout to prove their strength. They simply stand, enduring storms, bearing witness to the ages. Will you not also stand in that quiet authority? Rise up, chosen one. Do not allow mockery to suffocate your calling, nor flattery to chain you with false thrones. Walk with wisdom, speak with discernment, and guard your temple with reverence. Your power is not in the noise of explanation, but in the resonance of presence. The world may not yet be ready, but heaven is always listening. And when heaven hears, earth will eventually echo. Do not shrink your fire to appease shadows. Your silence, sharpened with wisdom, will roar louder than their laughter. Never step into the trap of performing to impress others, for you were never created to audition for their approval. You radiate royalty without lifting a finger, carrying a majesty that is neither loud nor decorated in earthly crowns, but undeniable all the same. When you walk into a room, your authority precedes your voice, the way a cathedral's arches speak before the choir sings. Why? Because your spirit has already endured its furnace. Like gold refined in fire, you emerged unshaken, and that stillness becomes your crown. Zechariah 13:9 reveals this mystery. I will refine them like silver and test them like gold. They will call on my name, and I will answer them. I will say, they are my people. And they will say, the Lord is our God. How can you be ordinary when heaven itself has declared you as His? And if your crown is eternal, why lower yourself for temporary applause that fades like smoke in the wind? Every step you take is a sermon. Every breath, a proclamation that cannot be silenced, no matter who refuses to acknowledge it. You don't need to parade your accolades, list your battles, or prove your scars. The very weight of your aura speaks more loudly than any proclamation. The world may not always know the details of your journey, but it cannot deny the calm authority that surrounds you. Proverbs 22:29 teaches, do you see someone skilled in their work? They will serve before kings. They will not serve before officials of low rank. Your presence alone testifies to skills and strength sharpened in private, beneath the eyes of God. Have you realized that the less you try to prove yourself, the more undeniable your worth becomes? What you carry is not performance, it is resonance, like the deep echo inside ancient halls, reminding everyone present that they are standing on holy ground. Silence itself becomes eloquence when God is the one who anointed you. The trap of seeking validation has ensnared many. Think of Saul, the king who grew desperate for recognition, who bent to the crowd instead of standing firm before God. His fall in 1 Samuel 15:24-26 warns us that chasing human approval leads to losing divine favor. How many chosen ones weaken their inheritance by dancing for applause that was never theirs to chase? And yet, how liberating it is when you step into silence, not needing to explain, not needing to perform, simply being. In that stillness, you no longer carry the weight of others' expectations. Instead, you walk free, a living witness that real strength is not frantic, but anchored. Do you see how the hunger for validation always enslaves, while the refusal to seek it always crowns? Nature itself confirms this. The lion does not roar to remind the jungle of his reign. His presence alone halts the chaos of lesser beasts. The cedar tree on the mountains of Lebanon does not strain to grow tall. It stretches skyward in quiet dignity, its roots hidden but unshakable. In the same way, your authority rests not in noise, but in depth. Isaiah 55:12 speaks of this silent grandeur. You will go out in joy and be led forth in peace. The mountains and hills will burst into song before you. and all the trees of the field will clap their hands. If the mountains proclaim without words, why should you perform for fleeting applause? And like rivers that carve valleys not through violence but through patience, your steady presence shapes the world more profoundly than constant striving ever could. The rhythm of creation itself testifies that true power is quiet but unstoppable. There is also a psychological truth embedded here. In human behavior, silence often commands more respect than speech. This is called paralinguistic dominance, a form of authority that requires no performance, only presence. When you stand still, eyes watch. When you remain grounded, hearts lean closer. Do you see how the less you strive, the more they gravitate? Stillness becomes a magnet, drawing those who are hungry for peace and unsettling those who cannot understand it. And what unsettles others often confirms your distinction. Your silence speaks where their noise collapses. This is why chosen ones often feel both admired and resisted simultaneously. But let us not ignore the cautionary tale of Nero, the Roman emperor who dressed himself in vanity and forced others to applaud his theatrical displays. His empire burned while he performed. History remembers him not for greatness but for madness. Contrast this with Christ, who entered Jerusalem not on a war horse but on a humble donkey, fulfilling Zechariah 9:9. See, your king comes to you, righteous and victorious, lowly and riding on a donkey. Which model defines your greatness? Nero's noisy arrogance or Christ's quiet triumph? And do you see how history always unmasks the false kings who clamor for recognition, while eternity preserves the humble kings who carried their crowns in silence? And yet, ordinary lives echo this same truth. Thomas, a bus driver from Dublin, once shared that the calm he carried during daily chaos drew people to him. Passengers often said they felt safe simply because of his steady silence. He never preached, never tried to impress. He just embodied peace, and that peace became his testimony. Many chosen ones underestimate how much others hunger for the sanctuary they unknowingly provide. Could it be that your stillness is the miracle someone else has been waiting for? Your life becomes the answer to prayers you'll never hear spoken aloud, and your presence becomes the bridge between their storm and God's calm. Psalm 46:10 resounds like an anchor. Be still, and know that I am God. In stillness, you don't lose power, you reveal it. You don't shrink, you magnify the unseen throne upon which your soul already sits. Silence becomes a sermon. Your eyes become verses. Your calm becomes a song no choir could perform. And in that moment, the atmosphere shifts because heaven recognizes its own reflection. Stillness is not passivity, it is victory preserved in patience, strength clothed in quiet. So, walk with confidence but never arrogance. Let your grounded presence be the architecture of heaven made visible on earth. Like a temple whose beauty requires no advertisement, stand as the storm's calm center, the unshaken axis around which chaos loses its force. And above all, remember this: royalty does not beg to be recognized, it is simply recognized. Rise, chosen one. You are not placed here to perform for a crowd, but to embody the kingdom. Stand tall, grounded, unwavering, for your crown is already upon you, and no man or system can strip what heaven has already placed on your head. Do not react emotionally when chaos surrounds you, for your stillness is not weakness, it is power refined. The chosen one is never tossed aimlessly in the winds of disorder. Instead, you stand like the unmoving axis at the center of the storm. The world may scream, gossip may erupt, Arguments may spark like wildfire, but your calm presence becomes the gravitational anchor that holds the atmosphere together. Isaiah, Carquint Keys called column promises. You will keep in perfect peace those whose minds are steadfast, because they trust in you. Have you noticed how in moments of confusion, eyes instinctively turn toward you, not because you begged for attention, but because stability recognizes stability? They are silently asking you for leadership without speaking a word. And in those moments, you are not just holding yourself together, you are holding the fragile threads of others who cannot yet carry their own storms. Chaos is the stage where most reveal their lack of inner control. It is here that tempers flare, insecurities spill, and fear manipulates entire crowds. But for the chosen one, the storm is not a threat. It is an opportunity to demonstrate mastery of the self. Have you wondered why your silence in heated moments unsettles others more than shouting ever could? It is because your calm does not merely pacify, it exposes. Proverbs 15 contra 1 declares, a gentle answer turns away wrath, but a harsh word stirs up anger. When you speak without rage, your words cut deeper than the loudest voice in the room. The crowd begins to realize that power is not in their noise, but in your restraint. And restraint is not weakness, it is a sword sharper than fury. This is why chosen ones often become the unexpected judges of chaos. They reveal its emptiness by refusing to imitate it. Nature itself preaches this truth. The mountain does not crumble because of the storm beating against it. It simply stands, unmoved, until the storm exhausts itself. The owl hunts at night, not by panicked flapping, but by stillness, waiting patiently until the exact moment of precision arrives. And the great river flows not by frenzy, but by persistence, carving valleys that no man can erase. Do you see how stillness, far from being passive, is the most active force of endurance on earth? The cactus in the desert proves the same. It survives blistering heat not by panic, but by conserving water and standing firm. This is what your calm does. It conserves divine energy for the right moment, releasing it only when it will transform, not when it will be wasted. History provides sobering contrasts. Pontius Pilate, a Roman governor, reacted in fear to the crowd's demands, washing his hands of responsibility and sentencing the innocent Christ to death. His inability to remain unmoved in the storm of public pressure sealed his legacy in disgrace. In contrast, Daniel in the lion's den remained calm, unshaken by hungry beasts or the king's decree. Daniel 6:23 reveals that no wound was found on him, because he had trusted in his God. Two men, two storms, one collapsed under fear. The other stood still and lived as proof of divine protection. Which example will mirror your response when chaos presses in? The story of Pilate teaches us that history never forgets cowards who yield to chaos, while Daniel's example proves that heaven crowns those who refuse to tremble. Will your name be remembered for surrendering to noise, or for standing unshaken in truth? Your stillness is not silence, it is resonance. In psychology, this is called emotional regulation, the art of maintaining balance when others are drowning in reactivity. Spiritually, it is communion with the Prince of Peace. Philippians 4:7 confirms this. And the peace of God, which transcends all understanding, will guard your hearts and your minds in Christ Jesus. Have you realized that when you breathe deeply and speak with clarity instead of rage, the room bends to your frequency, the energy shifts, and people recalibrate not because you force them, but because peace is contagious. Authority is not in the volume of your words, but in the weight of your stillness. And your stillness does not just change rooms, it recalibrates destinies. Because it models what others secretly wish they could be, untouchable by chaos. And the ordinary often reveal extraordinary truth. A shopkeeper named Elena in Madrid once recalled how an argument broke out in her small bakery. Customers shouted, insults flew, and tension rose. Yet she quietly continued kneading bread, humming softly, until the shouting subsided. Later, one of the customers admitted, "Your calm broke my anger. I suddenly felt foolish." Elena never preached a sermon, yet her stillness diffused a storm. Could it be that your calm presence has the same hidden authority to rewrite an entire atmosphere? And if such power can manifest in a small bakery, how much more in your life, where the weight of your divine assignment is far greater? Sometimes the greatest miracles are not in thunder or fire, but in the whisper of calm that dismantles the storm. The enemy thrives on reaction, like Herod, who lashed out in rage and slaughtered innocents in Matthew 2:16, desperate to control what he could not. His emotional frenzy left a legacy of blood and fear. But true power never flails, never shouts, never loses control. Power simply is. Have you noticed how stillness unsettles the prideful, while comforting the humble? This is why chosen ones cannot afford to mirror the chaos they were sent to heal. Herod's story warns us. Rage may feel powerful for a moment, but it always leaves a trail of ruin. Stillness, on the other hand, builds a throne that no hand can overthrow. So remain rooted. Let your silence preach where words are wasted. Let your composure expose the turmoil that others mask. Psalm 62:1 testifies, "Truly my soul finds rest in God. My salvation comes from Him." Chosen one, your calmness will shake entire rooms without you raising your voice. Walk as the still eye of the storm, the holy anchor in the frenzy, the unshaken pillar in a trembling generation. And when the storm finally dies, those who doubted your restraint will realize you were never passive, you were prophetic. Rise, for true royalty is never reactive. You were not called to be tossed about by every wind of conflict. You were called to stand so firmly in your truth that chaos itself bows. Stand tall, for your calm is not just survival, it is your crown. Never reveal all your wisdom at once, for wisdom is a fire divine, dangerous and holy. In the right hands and at the right time, it warms frozen hearts, illuminates hidden paths, and sparks courage where despair once lived. But in unprepared hands, or when revealed too soon, that same flame can burn, overwhelm, or be twisted for destruction. Ecclesiastes 3:7 reminds us there is a time to be silent and a time to speak. As a chosen one, your depth of understanding reaches far beyond the boundaries of ordinary knowledge. You see patterns invisible to the crowd. You connect dots others do not even know exist. But ask yourself, have you not noticed how quickly people either fear or idolize what they do not understand? Wisdom in your soul is not meant to be spilled recklessly like water. It is sacred fire to be guarded. The world does not need every secret at once. It needs the right flame at the right moment. There is often a pure desire in your heart to share, to awaken others, to guide them, as your own path was once illuminated by divine light. Yet wisdom is not to be poured out recklessly like water flooding a field. It must be administered like medicine, measured, intentional, and at the right moment. Proverbs 25:11 declares, A word fitly spoken is like apples of gold in pictures of silver. Have you ever seen the disappointment in someone's eyes when they received more than they could carry? Too much truth at the wrong time does not heal, it crushes. A single seed planted deeply will grow stronger than 1,000 scattered on concrete. This is why the Spirit often trains you to be patient, because what you hold is not ordinary advice. It is a key that can open or destroy lives, depending on timing. Your silence is not neglect, it is stewardship. Nature reflects this principle perfectly. The oak does not reveal its strength in a single season, it grows ring by ring, silently building endurance. The pearl forms slowly within the oyster's pane, hidden until its brilliance is fully ready. The firefly does not blind the night sky with constant blaze, but pulses with rhythm, teaching that light is most powerful when revealed in intervals. Should not your wisdom, too, follow divine timing, unfolding gracefully rather than exploding prematurely? Think also of volcanic earth. It holds immense fire beneath its crust, but only releases it when conditions align. If all that force erupted without season, it would destroy entire landscapes, but in measured moments, it creates new soil for generations to come. That is what your wisdom does when shared in season. It builds, rather than breaks. Scripture offers striking examples. Joseph, in his youthful zeal, revealed his dreams too quickly to his brothers in Genesis 37, and jealousy threw him into a pit. Yet when the time was right, that same wisdom raised him to Egypt's throne, saving nations from famine. Have you realized how a premature revelation can place you in unnecessary bondage, while a delayed but precise word can liberate an entire generation? The timing of wisdom is as holy as the wisdom itself. And Moses, too. He learned this when he acted in haste by striking down the Egyptian. His zeal without timing led him to 40 years in the wilderness. But when God's appointed hour came, that same passion became the foundation of Israel's deliverance. Does this not prove that wisdom without timing is dangerous? But wisdom with timing is destiny fulfilled. History also warns through its villains. Adolf Hitler devoured fragments of philosophy and mysticism, twisting half-digested wisdom into poisonous doctrine, because he was unprepared, and because others idolized his false knowledge. His words led to devastation and ruin. In contrast, King Solomon prayed for discernment, not riches, and God answered with a wisdom so profound that nations sought his counsel. 1 Kings 4:29 says, God gave Solomon wisdom and very great insight, and a breadth of understanding as measureless as the sand on the seashore. Which example will your handling of wisdom echo the destructive fire of arrogance or the steady flame of divine discernment? History records the legacies of both kinds of men, and eternity weighs the difference between counterfeit wisdom and holy wisdom. What will eternity say of yours? And what of ordinary lives? Marta, a midwife from a small village in Poland, once told her students that she never explained everything at once to a young mother in labor. If I gave her every detail, she would panic. So I give her one step at a time, one breath at a time. The women she guided later said those measured words saved them. Your wisdom, too, must be like that, delivered in doses people can endure. Have you noticed how sometimes a single calm word from you shifts a storm more effectively than an hour of preaching? And do you see that the smallest piece of timely wisdom can sometimes save a life in ways you will never witness? Like Marta, your gift is not in overwhelming others, but in guiding them step by step until they find their strength. In psychology, this principle is called cognitive load. The mind can only process so much before it shuts down. Spiritually, this is why Christ often spoke in parables. Matthew 13:11 records his words, "The knowledge of the secrets of the kingdom of heaven has been given to you, but not to them." He measured his revelations carefully, knowing that unprepared hearts would either reject or distort what was too great for them. Why should your approach be any different? A parable is not weakness, it is wisdom disguised to protect the unready. And when the heart ripens, the hidden truth blossoms. The greatest teacher of all time showed that revelation is not about showing off knowledge, it is about stewarding souls. So, let your wisdom unfold like the lotus flower, slowly, gracefully, and with discernment. Teach not by force, but by invitation. Sometimes a whisper is more powerful than a shout. Sometimes your silence speaks louder than 1,000 words. Let your life itself be the sermon, your presence, the message, and remember, the most sacred truths are never shouted, they are carried quietly, like fire kept alive in the sanctuary until the right moment to ignite the world. When you honor timing, your wisdom ceases to be mere information, it becomes transformation. And when you guard your flame, the day will come when God Himself commands you to release it, and the world will never be the same. Rise, chosen one, protect your wisdom, guard your flame, and release it only when the Spirit says, "It is time." For wisdom revealed too soon becomes a weapon, but wisdom revealed in season becomes salvation. You are the keeper of fire. Wait for the moment heaven ordains, and then let the world burn with light. Do not engage in petty talk, for your silence carries more weight than any argument ever could. In a world obsessed with chatter about celebrities, scandals, politics, and opinions that shift like sand in the wind, your refusal to join becomes a thunderclap of dignity. The chosen one does not need to dive into the shallow pools of gossip or meaningless debates, because your very spirit is anchored in eternal depths. Proverbs 10:19 Vans. When words are many, sin is not absent, but he who holds his tongue is wise. Have you noticed how easily words lose value when poured without restraint? And have you noticed how silence, in contrast, pierces more deeply than endless explanations? The silence of a chosen one is not weakness. It is the language of kings who understand that not every throne must be defended with noise. Your silence is not absence, it is resonance. While the crowd talks in circles, you are tuned not to the static of the world, but to the frequency of the divine, like a tuning fork vibrating at a perfect pitch. Your restraint disrupts the noise of those around you. In physics, this is known as constructive interference, when one pure wave alters the entire field. Spiritually, your silence functions the same way. It unsettles gossipers, not because you resisted them with words, but because you offered them nothing to cling to. Ecclesiastes 5:2 cautions, "Do not be quick with your mouth. Do not be hasty in your heart to utter anything before God." Is your tongue not more powerful when it is bridled by wisdom than when it runs wild? And if heaven itself measured every word before it was spoken into creation, why would you throw yours so cheaply into empty noise? Nature itself testifies. The eagle does not waste energy flapping at every gust of wind. It waits, silent and patient, until the right current lifts it above the storm. The bamboo bends quietly in the wind, never arguing with the storm. Yet, when the winds cease, it stands tall while others are broken, and the stars say nothing. yet their silence commands worship every night. Should not your stillness, chosen one, speak with the same authority? A single pause from you often speaks more loudly than the loudest opinions of others. Silence is not emptiness, it is presence magnified. Like a mountain whose very stillness dwarfs the clamor below. Does the mountain prove itself by noise, or by its immovable majesty? History shows both the peril and the power in speech. Marie Antoinette, in arrogance, dismissed the cries of the poor with careless words. Let them eat cake. Her shallow speech ignited a revolution and sealed her fate beneath the guillotine. Compare this with Jesus, who, when falsely accused, stood silent before Pilate. Matthew 27-14 records. But Jesus made no reply, not even to a single charge, to the great amazement of the governor. 2 figures, 2 responses, one destroyed by reckless talk, the other exalted by holy restraint. Does this not prove that silence is not weakness, but divine strategy? Words can build empires, but they can also tear them down. Silence, however, leaves no weapon for enemies to twist. It is a shield, a fortress, a wall of fire around your dignity. In everyday life, wisdom appears in ordinary faces. A farmer named Lucas from Argentina once shared that when neighbors quarreled in the village square, he never shouted back. Instead, he continued tending his soil in silence. Days later, the same people who mocked him returned to ask for his advice, because they realized his silence concealed more wisdom than their endless noise. Could it be that your restraint is the magnet that will draw people back to you, not because of what you said, but because of what you refused to say? The soil Lucas tilled grew more than crops. It grew respect. And in your case, every moment of silence plants seeds that may not sprout immediately, but will one day harvest admiration, trust, and influence. And there is a psychological truth embedded here. Social provocation theory shows that some speak loudly only to trigger a reaction, to validate their fragile egos through your engagement. When you refuse to respond, they are forced to wrestle with their own emptiness. Your silence becomes a mirror, forcing them to face the chaos they carry. Isaiah 30-15 affirms, "In quietness and trust is your strength." So why waste your energy in proving what your presence already establishes? Have you realized that when you step back, others are left to face the hollowness of their own words? And in those moments, the weight of your calm dismantles their illusions more effectively than 1,000 arguments ever could. Your silence is not emptiness, it is mystery. And mystery commands attention in a world starving for meaning. People lean in closer when you speak less. They begin to whisper, "Who is that person? What do they know that I don't?" This is the paradox of chosen ones. The fewer words you speak, the more weight your presence carries. James 1:19 declares, "Everyone should be quick to listen, slow to speak, and slow to become angry." Your restraint becomes an invitation for others to reflect, and at the same time, it opens a doorway for your soul to hear the whispers of heaven more clearly. Have you noticed how your silence becomes a sacred space where God Himself chooses to speak? What greater honor can there be than to be the vessel of divine secrets, guarded by restraint? So waste no breath proving points or defending your worth. Let your silence preach where words are useless. Let your restraint dismantle gossip and elevate the atmosphere around you. In a noisy world, silence becomes the rarest currency, and when wielded with intention, it is sharper than any sword. Rise, chosen one. Guard your tongue. Wield silence as your weapon, and let your quiet strength shift rooms, unsettle enemies, and reveal the voice of God. For in the end, eternity does not applaud noise, it crowns those who mastered the holy art of restraint. Never neglect your appearance, for you are a walking symbol of heaven's authority upon the earth. How you carry yourself is not merely about fashion or grooming, it is the living extension of your spiritual frequency. As a chosen one, you may not be preoccupied with vanity or fleeting trends, but understand this truth. The body you inhabit is a temple, and how you present it communicates reverence to the one who crafted it. 1 Corinthians 6:19-20 declares, "Do you not know that your bodies are temples of the Holy Spirit, who is in you, whom you have received from God? You are not your own, you were bought at a price. Therefore, honor God with your bodies." Have you realized that when you enter a space with posture of confidence, clothing of dignity, and movements of grace, the room shifts, not because you are showing off, but because your outer being testifies of your inner alignment. Your presence becomes a sermon without words. Dressing with intention is not about expensive labels or flamboyant colors, it is about discipline, clarity, and respect for your vessel. Cleanliness, composure, and harmony reveal more than jewels ever could. Proverbs 31:25 affirms, "She is clothed with strength and dignity, and she laughs without fear of the future." Have you not seen how even the smallest choices, your walk, your gaze, your stillness whispers sacred messages to those watching? To neglect appearance is to dim the divine symbol God entrusted you to carry. To honor it is to remind the world that holiness can be worn, not just preached. Artists and visionaries have long understood this principle. Coco Chanel, the revolutionary designer, once said, "Dress shabbily and they remember the dress. Dress impeccably and they remember the woman." Though she spoke of fashion, there is deeper wisdom for the chosen ones. When you dress with intention, people do not merely see fabric, they perceive frequency. Your appearance is not vanity, it is prophecy stitched into fabric. And in this way, you embody what Shakespeare once echoed in Hamlet. The apparel oft proclaims the man. How much more, then, should the chosen one's attire proclaim the presence of God within? Nature itself reflects this truth. The peacock does not apologize for its radiant feathers, for they were crafted as signals of beauty and confidence. The sunflower always turns its golden face toward the light, reflecting a divine design that cannot be hidden. The snow-capped mountain does not wear jewels, yet its silent robe of white inspires awe across generations. Should not your appearance, too, proclaim dignity without words? Isaiah 61:10 cries out, "I delight greatly in the Lord, my soul rejoices in my God. For he has clothed me with garments of salvation and arrayed me in a robe of his righteousness." If heaven dresses its chosen in righteousness, how can you allow neglect to clothe you in indifference? But let us not ignore the warning of the careless. King Belshazzar, drunk with arrogance, dishonored holy vessels at his banquet, clothing himself in extravagance while desecrating God's sacred items. That night, the writing appeared on the wall. His kingdom was stripped away. Daniel 5:27. Compare him to Joseph, who stood before Pharaoh not in rags, but in garments prepared with intention. Genesis 41-14 records. So Pharaoh sent for Joseph, and he was quickly brought from the dungeon. When he had shaved and changed his clothes, he came before Pharaoh. His preparation and appearance became the stage upon which God elevated him to govern nations. One man lost his crown through neglect and arrogance. The other received a crown through reverence and intentional presentation. Which path will your appearance align with, even in ordinary lives? The same truth breathes. Ana, a school teacher from Lisbon, once shared that when she began dressing with intention, not extravagance but cleanliness and quiet elegance, her students treated her words with more weight. She laughed, saying, "They listened differently, not because my lessons changed, but because my presence did." Could it be that those around you are waiting to respect the vessel God has given you? But they cannot until you respect it yourself. Your appearance preaches long before your mouth does, and science itself affirms what Scripture has long taught. Psychologists speak of enclothed cognition, the idea that what you wear not only changes how others perceive you, but also how you perceive yourself. When you adorn yourself with dignity, your posture strengthens, your mind sharpens, and your energy field expands. Is it not clear, then, that attire is not shallow, but deeply spiritual? To honor your body is to harmonize with the divine architecture of heaven itself. You become like a cathedral, every detail, every line, every polish reflecting the holiness of the presence within. So wear your presence like a crown, not to boast, but to inspire. Let your garments be clean, your posture upright, your movements intentional. Your very stillness must echo sacred confidence. People may not articulate why, but they will sense there is something unearthly about you. Some will admire, some will envy, others will imitate, but none of that matters. What matters is that you have honored your temple, your vessel, your sacred representation of the divine. Rise, chosen one. Clothe yourself in dignity. Walk in reverence. And let your appearance testify that heaven has marked you as a living symbol of what is possible for humanity. Do not try to fit in, for you were never created to blend into the background. You were born to stand out, to be a living signpost of divine disruption in a world addicted to sameness. Yes, the desire to belong is deeply human, a survival instinct wired into our biology. The tribe once meant safety, shelter, and protection from predators. But as a chosen one, your soul was not sent here merely to survive. It came to transform, to awaken, to rupture illusions and call forth truth. John 15:19 reminds, "If you were of the world would love you as its own, but because you are not of the world, but I chose you out of the world, therefore the world hates you." Have you noticed how your difference unsettles people? Not because you are wrong, but because you expose how much they have settled for less. Your uniqueness is not an accident, it is the architecture of heaven written into your DNA. Your ideas, your energy, your vision all carry a frequency that bends the atmosphere. Like a violin string tuned perfectly against a noisy orchestra, your vibration challenges the false harmony of the crowd. Isaiah 60:1 calls to you, "Arise, shine, for your light has come, and the glory of the Lord rises upon you." Whether you walk into a boardroom, a classroom, a family gathering, or a crowded street, your aura radiates authenticity. Have you noticed how children stare at you in wonder, as if they instinctively know you carry something holy, or how strangers confide in you without knowing why? That is not chance, it is your spirit at work. disrupting the ordinary. Society, however, will resist, out of fear, jealousy, or ignorance. They may label you too much, too quiet, too intense, too sensitive, too different. But those words are not mirrors of who you are. They are confessions of who they are not yet ready to become. Jeremiah 1:5 declares, "Before I formed you in the womb, I knew you. Before you were born, I set you apart." What they call too different is simply your divine appointment. The butterfly is never too bright for the dullness of the caterpillar's world. It simply testifies that transformation is possible. Will you hide your wings because others fear the flight? History shows us both imitators and originals. Vincent van Gogh, the painter who saw stars swirling in divine turbulence, was mocked, dismissed, and isolated in his lifetime. Yet his refusal to shrink into conformity painted eternity into canvases. Meanwhile, a villain like Pontius Pilate, desperate to fit in with political pressures, washed his hands of truth and sent an innocent Christ to the cross. Matthew 27-24 records. When Pilate saw that he was getting nowhere, he took water and washed his hands before the crowd. One man stood out and became immortal in art. The other blended into the crowd and became immortal in infamy. Whose legacy would you rather echo? Nature speaks the same parable. The lone cedar tree standing tall on a mountainside does not apologize for its height. It anchors the soil for generations. The wolf, unafraid to walk apart from the pack, often discovers new hunting grounds that others never dared to reach. The aurora borealis dances across the Arctic sky, never blending into darkness, but painting heaven's colors boldly. Does not creation itself testify that those who stand apart reveal the glory of the Maker? Psalm 139-14 declares, "I praise you because I am fearfully and wonderfully made. Your works are wonderful." I know that full well. I have a long verstaan, and in ordinary lives, authenticity still shakes the ground. Laila, a young nurse from Morocco, once told her patients, "I don't copy other nurses' routines, I listen to what your body needs." Many laughed at her unconventional approach, but families later testified that her care saved lives. She did not fit in, she transformed the standard. Could it be that your refusal to conform is not rebellion, but obedience to the blueprint God engraved in you? Have you noticed how freedom floods your spirit when you finally stop shrinking to fit molds never designed for you? The Apostle Paul himself carried this mantle. Romans 12:2. Do not conform to the pattern of this world, but be transformed by the renewing of your mind. Paul broke away from Pharisaic conformity to carry the gospel to the nations. His refusal to fit in birthed the church as we know it today. And you too are called to embody this defiance, not by performance, but by presence. When you show up fully yourself, unapologetically aligned with heaven, people take notice. Some will name you a guide, others a healer, some simply someone they cannot forget. So do not shrink. Do not bend your walk, soften your voice, or dilute your essence to earn approval. You were not crafted to fit their mold, you were born to break it. The world does not need more replicas, it desperately cries for originals. And that original is you. Rise, chosen one. Stand out boldly. Wear your difference like armor, and let your life declare that heaven's fingerprint is upon you. Never underestimate the power of eye contact, for the eyes of a chosen one carry light. scars, wisdom, and eternity itself. When your gaze meets another's, it is no ordinary exchange. It is a sacred transmission, a silent prophecy that bypasses logic and pierces the soul. In that instant, truth travels faster than words, cutting through masks and pretenses that people have carefully built. Some will look away, trembling as if their soul has been uncovered. Others will linger, drawn as though they are standing before a flame that both warms and unsettles. Proverbs 20:27 reveals, "The spirit of man is the lamp of the Lord, searching all his inmost parts." Have you not seen how a single glance can silence a room? How your eyes seem to speak what your mouth never utters, and when people leave your presence, they often cannot explain it, yet they feel marked forever by what your gaze carried. Guard your gaze, for it was never meant to be used recklessly. The chosen are entrusted with eyes that carry both tenderness and fire, compassion and confrontation. In psychology, the principle of limbic resonance describes how nervous systems synchronize through eye contact. But in you, this resonance operates on a higher frequency. Spiritually, your gaze can transmit peace into chaos or conviction into denial. Some will open to you instantly, confessing secrets they never planned to reveal, while others may flee as though exposed by a holy flame. Thecharia 2:8 declares, "Whoever touches you touches the apple of his eye." Could it be that heaven placed such weight in your gaze so that people cannot help but feel eternity pressing upon them? Your eyes carry the same paradox as lightning, awe-inspiring to the humble, yet terrifying to the proud. Nature affirms this mystery again and again. The lion does not roar every hour. It rules its territory with a steady, unflinching stare that halts intruders in their tracks. The hawk, circling high above, locks its eyes upon prey, and the forest knows its focus changes destinies. And the ocean, vast and immeasurable, mirrors back the sky with a gaze so steady that sailors of old found direction in its reflection. Should not your eyes, too, carry that same authority, able to stabilize, confront, and guide with nothing more than stillness? Psalm 121:1-2 says, "I lift up my eyes to the mountains. Where does my help come from? My help comes from the Lord." If eyes lifted to God can bring strength, how much more can your eyes, aligned with heaven, and bring strength to those around you? The world does not need another noisy voice. It needs eyes that embody eternal clarity. But history also warns of eyes corrupted and misused. Nero, the Roman emperor, was said to glare with a gaze that chilled his court, eyes burning not with divine fire, but with cruelty and paranoia. His unchecked vision turned Rome to ashes, both literally and morally. For those who stared into his eyes saw not truth, but madness. Contrast this with Christ, whose eyes, described in Revelation 1:14 as like blazing fire, pierced through hypocrisy, yet wept with compassion for Jerusalem. Two gazes, one that destroyed, one that redeemed. Which will your eyes echo when the world meets them in the marketplace, the classroom, or the home? And what responsibility lies in guarding that sacred channel of awareness? Your eyes are not casual, they are covenantal, bearing witness of heaven in a realm drowning in shadows. The testimony of ordinary lives speaks as powerfully as Scripture. A young barista named Tomas from Seville once told a friend, "When you looked into my eyes, I felt for the first time that someone actually saw me, not the mask I wear, That simple exchange changed his life, leading him to leave behind destructive habits and pursue healing. What if your eyes hold that same potential to awaken strangers, to disrupt despair, to remind someone that they are not invisible? Have you recognized that people often remember less of what you say and more of how your eyes made them feel? Your gaze becomes a door to restoration, silently affirming worth where the world has spoken rejection. And in a culture drowning in distraction, eye contact from a chosen one feels like water in a desert. Scripture underscores this mystery once again in Matthew 6:22. The eye is the lamp of the body. If your eyes are healthy, your whole body will be full of light. This is why you must live in truth, for when your life is aligned, your eyes carry purity that transforms. People may not understand why they feel reverence in your presence, but they cannot deny it. Your eyes will be treated as sacred, not because of worship toward you, but because they sense eternity gazing back at them. And is this not the very essence of being chosen, not to be elevated above others, but to elevate them into awareness of their own light? The gaze of the chosen is not performance, it is presence, the meeting point between human vulnerability and divine eternity. So, do not underestimate what God has entrusted you. Guard your eyes. Use them wisely, and let them shine not as weapons of intimidation, but as beacons of awakening. When you lift your gaze in truth, you shift atmospheres. When you hold your eyes steady with integrity, you dismantle lies without speaking a word. Rise, chosen one. Do not dim the eternal fire in your gaze. Let your eyes become the silent sermon that shakes souls awake. And let your presence confirm to the world that heaven still watches through you. For when your eyes align with eternity, they remind creation that God's light still burns through human vessels. There is a reason God has marked you as His chosen one, and there is a reason He has warned you to guard the treasures inside you. Some things are not meant to be displayed in public squares, not because they are weak, but because they are too powerful. What God has placed within you carries a frequency that bends atmospheres and shifts energy and awakens souls. If released without discernment, it does not merely inspire, it forces people into awe, into fear, or into worship they do not understand. That is why discernment is your shield. Silence is sometimes your greatest sermon, and restraint is your greatest offering back to heaven. Throughout this journey, you have seen that your light is not ordinary illumination. It disrupts the darkness in others. You have learned that your wisdom is not ordinary knowledge. Shared in the wrong hands, it becomes either idolized or rejected. You have discovered that your eyes, your presence, in your silence, these are not casual traits, but divine instruments. And so the charge is clear. You must protect the sacred. Christ Himself warned in Matthew 7-6, "Do not give dogs what is holy. Do not throw your pearls before swine, lest they trample them underfoot and turn to attack you." The wisdom He gave you is pearl-like, radiant, timeless, and too rare to be cast before those who cannot yet value it. Do you realize what happens when you restrain instead of reveal? You give God space to speak for you. When you resist the urge to prove yourself, the Spirit proves you in ways words never could. When you choose silence in a noisy world, your silence exposes the emptiness of false voices. When you refuse to dim your light, even though others may call you too much, you give permission for others to rise from their sleep. What if your very act of restraint is the proof that you were never meant to blend into the crowd, but to stand as a beacon in a restless generation. The truth is, chosen ones are always watched. People study you more than they admit. Some want to learn from you. Others want to find flaws in you. And still others simply want to be near your fire. This is why your life itself becomes the sermon. Sometimes, the most powerful preaching you will ever give is not through words, but through how you carry yourself in a storm, how you hold your peace in chaos, and how you walk with dignity when others choose compromise. As Paul reminded in 2 Corinthians 3:2-3, you yourselves are our letter, written on our hearts, known and read by everyone. You show that you are a letter from Christ. Your life is the letter people read, and that is why what you reveal or conceal matters deeply. But let us remember, the call to guard your mysteries is not a call to pride. It is not about hiding out of fear. It is about revealing with discernment. At the time and to the people God has prepared. You are not withholding love. You are stewarding fire. You are not denying access. You are ensuring transformation. What happens when fire is given to a child? It destroys. What happens when fire is given to the prepared? It warms. It cooks. It gives life. The divine fire in you works the same way. Will you trust God with the timing of your revelation? Or will you give in to the world's demand to entertain them with your secrets? And so we arrive at this truth. The world does not need you to reveal everything in public. It does not need your pearls trampled, your fire misused, or your wisdom idolized. What the world needs is your authentic presence, your disciplined silence, your grounded posture, and your unwavering light. These things alone force people to reflect, to confront themselves, to be awakened. The chosen one is not called to make people worship them. You are called to direct people's gaze toward the one who placed the fire within you. And when you live in that truth, you cannot be hidden. Chosen one, hear this as a final charge. Walk with discernment. Guard what is holy. Reveal only what heaven releases through you. When you walk into rooms, carry your crown with humility, but never shrink from its weight. When you remain silent, let your silence thunder louder than noise. When you speak, let each word be seasoned with wisdom. As Colossiens 4:6 says, let your conversation be always full of grace, seasoned with salt, so that you may know how to answer everyone. The world does not need a copy of its own shallow chatter. It needs the deep resonance of one who walks with God. And now, I turn to you, our community of chosen ones. If this message stirred your spirit, if you felt God reminding you of the fire you carry, type 111 inches, the comments, as a prophetic act of alignment. Share this video with others who need to remember their worth. Like this message if it resonated with you. And if you haven't yet, subscribe to this channel so you can continue walking this journey with a community that understands your calling. To those who have supported this work through prayers, shares, comments, and through super thanks, we honor you deeply. And to those who have simply shown up here today, thank you, because your presence is never taken lightly. Whether you gave much or gave nothing, you are a vital part of this family. As you leave today, I bless you. May your light never be dimmed. May your wisdom never be wasted. And may your eyes continue to carry the fire of eternity. May you walk in rooms with the confidence of heaven. And may your silence continue to preach louder than 1,000 voices. Rise, chosen one. Guard what is holy. Shine what is eternal. and let your very life testify that God's glory still walks among us.